Hi, good evening, nutrition class of fall 2021. My name is Kadira and I want to welcome you to my kitchen. Today we're going to be cooking a recipe that is very near and dear to my heart. This is an old vintage recipe from 1943. Today we're going to be cooking the one, the only, big, bad, and scary meatloaf. Yes, we're going to be cooking meatloaf. This is a recipe, like I'd mentioned before, that's very near and dear to my heart. A recipe that I've gotten a lot of compliments on, and I thought, you know what, better to share it than with my nutrition class. But seeing as that it is a nutrition class, there are a lot of healthier alternatives that you can use for this recipe as well. So one of the biggest is the meat. So I usually like to use the grass-fed beef. I love to use that instead of using the regular grain-fed beef is because it has no added hormones and it's a much leaner meat. It doesn't have any antibiotics in there as well. So I'm kind of a clean freak and I absolutely love to have things that are as natural as possible, if possible. So today, to follow true wartime fashion, during 1941 to 1943, Uncle Sam had a few food rules. One of those food rules, especially for red meat, was portions and rationing. Dun 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 dun. Instead of meatloaf, meat muffins. I know, kind of sounds weird, a little disgusting, and I'm really sorry if you're kind of grossed out by that. Hopefully you're not. Reason why I felt that doing meat muffins is a little bit better is for the portion control primarily. Obviously, to follow true wartime fashion, we're gonna go ahead and just ration as well. So some total prep time for this guy is gonna be about 15 minutes. To cut down on that prep time, the recipe does call for onion. You can always buy already cut onion, super easy. You can buy all of this stuff at Trader Joe's, or you can get it at Whole Foods if you're willing to pay the price, or even Sprouts, some of my favorite stores. So, cook time. If you do decide to do the meat muffins, which are so much fun, and if you've got a large family, I think this is perfect. It's just me, so it's still pretty good, because then I could just freeze the rest. Cook time for the muffins is going to be about 45 to 50 minutes, depending on your oven, if you've got a gas or electric oven. If you want to be traditional and put it in a loaf pan, totally fine. You're going to do 1 hour and 15 minutes, and both of the recipes are going to be at 325. We want this meat to be low and slow. So we're going to pop this bad boy in the oven. All right. Wish I had some music. So what we're going to do next is the gravy. The gravy is a personal recipe of mine. So with this gravy, what you want to use is, technically it's actually a roux. So you want to get some butter. First you want to turn your stove on. You want to turn it on to a medium heat. I have an electric stove, so for me, medium works just fine. I let my butter thaw just a little bit so it'll be a little easier to melt for time purposes. Don't worry, I'm wearing an apron. I'm just going to wipe this guy on there. So you want to throw in your butter. And what I have in here is roughly about a tablespoon of flour. The amount of butter I use isn't usually that much. I will use half of a tablespoon and it yields quite a bit. So you want to get that butter all nice and melted. And what I usually like to do is I kind of tap in all of my flour slowly but surely, because what you want to do is create a thickened gravy. And prior to putting all of this in here, I sauteed some mushrooms and I threw them in there before. And then I like to also add some beef broth to kind of thicken, to loosen it up. Because when you add the butter and then you add the flour, it does create kind of like a paste, and that's what you want. But to thin out that paste and to add more things to it, you want to go ahead and just add a little bit of beef broth. And this is the one that I use, this organic one. Ooh, sorry, it's a little awkward. So I kind of like mine a little on the thinner side. My gravy, not quite liquidy, just a little bit thin. We're gonna go ahead and turn this guy off, let it cool. And you kind of want it to look a little like this. It looks oh, so sorry. It looks a little soupy, and that's okay too. Alrighty guys, and what you can do is if it gets a little soupy and once you kind of let it sit and cool, if it isn't what you like, what you can do is add a smidge more flour, and again, just keep stirring. You don't want it to burn. You don't want it to get super thick and have that like tight consistency. To kind of loosen that all up, you just use that beef broth. And you just kind of keep turning that guy. If you guys have any other questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. Again, this is one of my personal favorite recipes and I've done it so many times. So if you've got any alternatives or dietary restrictions, feel free to ask. Have a wonderful night, guys. Hope you enjoy my meatloaf.